Buju, wago shindagu migizi indodem, gazaga squaji mekag, indun jaba. Today, I'd like to share a little bit about some tools and resources for teachers who want to do more and better with regard to Native American content. This is a really critical topic. Oftentimes, Indigenous people have struggled with, and I know I have struggled with when I was in K-12, this feeling of being marginalized or rendered invisible. With a growing awareness around this, there have been numerous people on the policy side, on the teacher development side, and within educational teams and professional development who are looking for ways to do more and to do better. And what I'd like to do is just show some of the resources that have been developed that might be useful to folks who are trying to do this. So the first place I'd like to invite you to check out is simply my website. Lots of free tools and resources here. If you go to the website and navigate over here to the resources tab, you'll find all kinds of tools for educators and everyone else. One of the first is just recommended books and resources. And this is just a list that I developed myself. If you click on it, it'll bring you into a PDF document, and you'll see Indigenous authored books on tribal language and culture, on early Native American history. You'll see stuff on legal history, contemporary history and government policy. You also have a pretty decent list on perspectives, philosophy, Indigenous worldview, and things like that. We also have a few literature sections here. So literature for adults and also young adult literature. And this has been an area where there's been a lot of growth in recent years. Many authors and numerous new books, a lot more than a lot of people are aware of. I also have some recommended video resources that might be useful on a whole variety of topics and content. And then a bunch of web-based resources that might be useful to folks. Indigenous educators who worked on why treaties matter and developed teacher guides and content, all tagged to Minnesota's educational standards. So some of those might be useful to folks. In addition to that, when we go back to the resources tab, have a lot of other tools that might be useful for educators. If you scroll down, the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux Community has funded a variety of resources for educators within the state of Minnesota. And one is just this guide for Native American related teaching resources. And if you go there and you click on the guide, it gives you an incredible array of content. As you take a look at it, it's a pretty large document. So if I go up here towards the top, you'll notice that there's some kind of orientation information about who's working on it, content guide, but then really the meat and potatoes of this particular guide are not just some basic information about Native Americans, but anchored to the standards by each content area and by each grade level, tagged directly to the standards. Here's your benchmark and your suggested resources, books, movies, and other things that might be useful for those who want to study and learn more. And this map is incredible. So here's grade 1, anchor standards that have stuff to do with Native things, and then broken into the different topics and suggested resources for reading, teaching, and so forth. That's just looking at the first little part of first grade. Here's second grade, and it goes all the way through. This map is expansive. It's not exhaustive. There's still more content that didn't even make it into the map, but it does cover the entire span of Minnesota's educational standards. It's a rich resource. And I think a lot of times in former times, our problem used to be, how do we find a needle in a haystack? How do we find something that actually has to do with natives? Now the problem is, which needle in the stack of needles should I pay attention to? And here you go with Ojibwe and Dakota people who have vetted these resources directly relevant for Minnesota's educational standards. And it's really going to be incredibly useful in Minnesota. If you are an educator and you are not from Minnesota, it will still be incredibly valuable because there's a lot of content that is specific to tribes, North Dakota, Wisconsin, because the Ojibwe are such a big group. And also as a map, tool, and resource for anyone that has Indigenous anything in their standards and is looking for ways to support teachers to have more information. It breaks everything out into a bibliography as well, so that you can just go through and hunt and pull resources if you'd want to see it outside of the map. And so here too, you just have a very expansive list of tools and resources that will really help educators find the content that they really need and to help Native kids understand who they are. For those who want to take it a step further, there's an additional document also funded by Shakopee and part of Minnesota's Understand Native Minnesota Educator Initiative. And when you look here, this is the Essential Understandings document. And there were probably at least 20 people who worked on this. I did a very small part in suggesting tools and resources and content. But here, instead of, the goal here is to say, instead of just having random acts of equity or scattershot mentions of Native things where we have to within the standards, this is guidance to say, how can we make the most of the standards and the resources that have been developed, and guidance for what Indigenous people are hoping educators will be able to deliver to the kids so that everyone can have a deeper and more productive understanding of Indigenous people. So here too, great content and resources. And as you scroll through, in addition to some kind of overview guidance, you'll find what Native people are hoping everyone will understand about the Ojibwe, about the Dakota, about the Native nations here in Minnesota. What are their names? How are their governments structured? How are they structured differently from one another? And some of these essential understandings will be really, really useful to help educators accelerate their own understanding and understand how the standards are not just a moving target that everyone has to hit and is perpetually frustrated with, but how it can actually provide guidance through a student's entire educational journey so that they go from, assuming no knowledge to having a really functional and relevant knowledge about the first people of the land. So the Essential Understandings doc is also going to be really useful for folks. Still on the resources tab, if anyone wants to go deeper into other areas, there's information here about Rosetta Stone. And when you click on that link, it brings you to the landing page for Ojibwe Rosetta Stone. And some of the things that people don't know as well about this is that in addition to Rosetta Stone being a language learning tool, so it uses video, audio, uses artificial intelligence. It can correct your pronunciation as you interact with the app in real time. It can correct your grammar as you interact with the app. And it's a really powerful teaching platform. What a lot of people don't know, though, is that year one of Rosetta Stone also has a teacher guide that is 512 pages long that show a teacher how to make the most of Rosetta Stone in a classroom space. And it provides example lessons, applications. So even if you're in a district where you don't have funding to hire full-time, Ojibwe language instructor, but you do want to do some Ojibwe language instruction, you can have somebody who themselves is a language learner who uses the platform to connect the fluent speakers who are part of the platform and the content there, and uses the teacher guide to actually have structured administration of the content in Rosetta Stone so you can do a really meaningful Ojibwe language program. That's only year one of Rosetta Stone. Year two has a teacher guide just as big. And year three will be coming out in March and will be just as big. And we're going to keep going until we have a 6-year development for this. You could actually scope somebody out for an entire 6 years of deep dive Ojibwe language learning in your educational space, not just by giving them a referral or putting this on a computer in a classroom, but by really following the guidance that's built for you so that you can make the most of it. There are many, many other things here too. I've got a more Ojibwe language tools. And so that includes, a talking dictionary for Ojibwe, audio and book content and so forth. So all of that will be really helpful for folks who want to go a little deeper with the language learning. I should also mention additional free information for folks who want to do a little bit more. If you click on the press kit, it will actually bring you to a section where you can scroll down, and it's hyperlinked up to go to my YouTube channel. And on my YouTube channel, we have a whole bunch of content. You can click on playlists. And so here you'll find things like Ojibwe language videos, and there's an Ojibwe word of the day every single day, and there are hundreds of them already posted. So you could do just one little Ojibwe language enrichment, word every single day in your classroom for years. And all of that's sitting right there for free. In addition to that, there's cultural content. So there's a cultural playlist. And if you clicked on culture videos, you'll see that sorry about that. You'll see that there's a whole bunch of stuff to choose from with regard to, how do Native people make tobacco out of a willow plant, and different things like that. Also guidance, stories, things that are culturally relevant. So one of the things that sometimes educators struggle with is that they feel a little flat-footed, like I'm not a cultural content expert and I don't want to offend somebody or expose an ignorance, so I'm just going to do less. But that just adds to the invisibility and marginalization of Native people. Here, you can pull in some authentic Native voices, have them tell a story. You can do some expansion activities. There are a lot of different ways that you can make best use of that kind of content. And in addition to that, there are history videos. There's more information on racial equity, perspectives, things that might be useful beyond your classroom. Should we do land acknowledgements or not? How do we make the most of them? And things like that. So that might be useful to you as well. And that's all available on the YouTube channel. In addition to that, we also have more information if you want to connect with me more and more deeply, information on my own books and publications. Those are all hyperlinked and easy enough to find. And there's a lot of stuff out there. A new young adult novel, story of an Ojibwe boy who is looking for clues to a murder and kind of finds himself as he gets sent to run a trap line with his grandfather in the Canadian wilderness. It's both a taut thriller and also a tender coming of age story that I think really flips the script on Indigenous literature and provides something that is both wholesome and unflinching, and I think a very positive example of what it looks like to come of age for an Indigenous person. Something great for everybody to know. There's the young reader edition of Everything You Wanted to Know About Indians, but Were Afraid to Ask, and many other pieces that might be useful to you. So as you are seeking for ways to help all of our students understand Native people better, connect with and learn about the first people of the land, their histories, cultures, and so forth, there's a lot of work that's been done. A lot of things that you can use in your classroom. And we are doing everything we can to make it as easy and as fruitful as possible. But we do have to lean in. We do have to do our part. And for all of our students, we have to prepare them for a world we can only imagine, but we have to imagine that it will be a diverse place. And knowing about this will be really helpful for them, not just in their K-12 educational journey, but everything in life that comes with it. Thank you so much. Miigwech. Thanks for watching today. I'm Anton Treuer. Let's keep in touch. I'm active on social media, and my website has lots of information on my books, speaking engagements, resources for the Ojibwe language, teachers, and more. Miigwech.